In this video, we're gonna continue to talk about rendering in 3ds Max. And we saw in the previous video how we can create a really fast and simple rendering using the IBL technique or image baselining and using HDRI or environment texture. Now you can see that with this really simple technique, we can have a nice background, a realistic background, which we don't have to create. We don't have to create the scene, it's just a single image. And then we have reflections for our reflective materials. So everything is going to be more realistic because it's going to be reflecting what's in the surroundings instead of like a simple color or a simple background. So everything will be really realistic in a really fast and simple fashion. So this is the first technique and the first type of rendering that we are gonna see here, that we already saw actually. And in this video, we're gonna talk about exterior renderings. Now you of course create exterior renderings also with HDRI and image baselining. You just need to select background or an HDRI image, which is gonna be representing an exterior or outdoor environment, like something that can be a night scene or a day scene or a sunset, whatever. So by just applying the HDRI, we can have the exterior lining. And we also saw that we have interior setups here. So we're gonna see also interior rendering later. And we also saw where we can get some learning scenes. So these are really helpful scenes that you can use to study many of the different effects that you can apply, whether you are on a single subject rendering or you are in an interior rendering or exterior rendering. So you can use these sample files to test and study different effects and techniques and tools that we're gonna also see in this part of the video course. So I'm gonna continue here and I'm gonna just select a scene that I want to use in the exterior. And we can see also that in the sample files, we can find a kind of architectural model like city, concept city. We can use this to make a first test with the first tools that we're gonna see, which are the sun and the sky system, which can help us to create sun and sky. Now, when you import something that is not already set up for Arnold renderer, it's gonna ask you to convert the scene. So this is another really handy tool, which is called the scene converter, and can help you to convert anything into Arnold materials, lights, and anything that is possible, like render settings and so on. So anytime you bring in a scene with a previous version of 3ds Max, or let's say with another render, it's going to ask you if you want to convert. And this is showing you what it's going to convert. It's going to convert Arcane design materials, physical sky, mental ray sun, mental ray sky. These are all old-fashioned, let's say, from the previous version of 3ds Max. So you can use this, and this is going to automatically convert everything. Now, also, if you're using like Corona or V-Ray, which are other render engine, you can try to convert everything with to be used in Arnold. Now, if you're interested in the channel, you will find also courses in V-Ray for 3ds Max and Corona for 3ds Max, which are two really popular and powerful render engine out there if you want to work with those. Here, we're going to just proceed with Arnold. So first of all, I only have one view here, so I need to change the layout from the customize panel of the viewports. I want to switch to the 4 views layout, which we are using since the beginning of our course. And there you go. So we have here these buildings, and already we have a daylight system set up. A daylight system is the combination of a sun and a sky. Now everything looks too bright, so probably we need to adjust the exposure. So remember that every time that you see some scene that is too black or too white, the issues could be probably two. So usually there are two main issues. The first one is going to be the intensity of the light. The second is going to be could be the exposure. So you can see here I also have a camera, and I can just go inside that camera just by selecting it into the views. And we're also going to talk about cameras more in this video and also in the following videos. So here you can see I can change the position of the camera, and right now I'm just looking through that camera. So I can also activate the show save frame to see what the render will be. So don't be deceived by the viewport, because the render could be something else. So if you want to see how the render is going to come out, you should activate the save frames. That's the settings that you can set up in the render settings in the common panel. And we're going to see those later on as well. So also here I want to switch to the wireframe in the other views so I can see better the whole scene. And you can just zoom, extend to zoom all the scene. Now these are all tools that we introduced earlier in the course. So I'm just going fast because we already know all of these tools and commands. We saw that in the first part of the course. And if I render, you can see this is the resolution of the render. This is the height and the width. So this is kind of a customized format. So you can use standard formats, or you can use customized formats if you want. And to change the format, you need to go into the render setup. And we can already see that it looks fine. So it doesn't look good in the viewport, but it looks fine in the rendering. So if you go to the system, that's the daylight system right there. This is where you can create a daylight system. And a daylight system is essentially a combination of sky and sun. And it's really handy because you can set up the hours, the minutes, so by the time, the day, the month. And you can also use a precise location. You can get a location. So if you want, for example, Rome, you can go in Europe here and select all the main cities. In this case, I want to have Rome, and I can get the latitude and the longitude, or I can just insert latitude and longitude if I want. So this is going to create a perfect simulation of that particular exterior in that particular place in that particular time. So we're going to also see the daylight system again, or the sky and the sun and the sky. This is the first thing you can do when you do exterior renderings. And now I'm taking the scene that we have developing during the course, and we're gonna use this to create the daylight scene. Now, if you remember, I created two Arnold lights here. One was a sky and the other was a distant Arnold light. So those two can simulate perfectly the sun and the sky. And also I want to show you some other tools that can be helpful when you need to do exterior renderings, like for example, if you want, here you have the possibility to create freehand splines like that. So I want to show you that with these freehand splines you can create like a terrain with another tool, or you can either like import a CAD file containing these are called level curves, and they're used to represent terrains. So the various height of the terrains. So each curve represents a different height of the terrain. So as in Skyline, I am creating here some hills and some mountains. So you can see I've created with the splines, with the freehand splines, some of these curves, but again, you can import them using like Google Maps also and SketchUp. You will find also a video guide in the channel of how you can create these curves using SketchUp and Google Maps. Just search it, and if you don't find it, just